So far, we considered how we can use TurboStreams to add, edit, and list messages. Let us now add real-time updates using ActionCable with TurboStreams. Currently, when we add a message, only we see it. Other users have to refresh the page to see those new messages. Let us now go back to the editor, stop the server, and run Okay, what it did, it just added few files that let us use ActionCable setup that lets us using real-time updates using TurboStreams. Let us commit this. And now in this file, at the very top, let us add this. What this line does is obvious from its text. Now let us open the message model class. And in here add this code. We will discuss this code in detail in a minute. For now, let us just mention the following. As you see here, we have two identifiers, the stream name or stream identifier and the DOM target ID or DOM target identifier. This stream name or stream identifier should match with this one, and this DOM target should match with the ID of the target div. So in order to avoid confusion, let us change this to messages list and change this also to messages list. And let us do one more change here. As you know, in chats, latest messages are shown at the top. So let us use reverse ordering here. And let us go back to the browser and refresh. And let me also use another browser. In this case, I'm using Safari. Let me also refresh and go to messages. And let me say something in here. Currently counts as 3. As you see, we get the update, we got the message, and we got the counts updated. And let me also send message from here. And we got it also in here. And let us try to delete our test message. As you see, it also got changed. And let us edit this one. As you see, it also works. Now let us go back to the editor and discuss what we did. Let me go back to the message model class. Here we use event callbacks, and as you see here, we could also use after create without using underscore commit. But this is better because in this case, we get callbacks only after new messages or updated messages get persisted in the database or after messages have been deleted in the database. In cases when we update messages, we do not have to update counters. We call it directly with just updating the message itself. But in case when we create new message or destroy, we also have to update the counts. So for that reason, we call functions, and there we do two broadcasts, one to prepend, and that's why we used the reverse order, and another call to update the counts. We do that with create and destroy. And here, as you noticed, we update because, as you remember, in counter, we left just the content and moved the wrapper to the index page. Our wrapper is in here. It's not inside of the partial. So that's why we use update in here instead of using replace. And we still can use the partial here with the target. This target will not try to find this DOM element with this ID inside of the partial. As you see in this case, we can target elements that are not necessarily inside of the partial. Turbo can find this element anywhere in the DOM. As you see, we can implement real-time updates using the model class, but we can also implement this inside of the messages controller. Let us do that and then compare advantages and disadvantages of these two approaches. Let us delete these changes except for validations. Let us open the messages controller and let us go to the create method, and here let us add and now let us keep the changes that we did to the update, and let us just consider the destroy. And here let us add, as you see here, we do basically the same thing. The only difference is that we added this part. When we implement it inside of the controllers, we have to add this to make it explicit that we are using turbo streams. Otherwise, we still use update using the same stream identifier. We target the same DOM element using the same partial. And the same is the case of destroy. We use broadcast remove using the same stream identifier and the same target and partials. And let us go back to the browser and see if it works. Refresh, and let me also refresh it in the Safari and test it again. As you see, it works, and if we delete it, as you see, it still works. Now let us mention the advantages and disadvantages of these two approaches. When we implement it using the model class, broadcasts happen automatically whenever a record is created or destroyed or updated, even if it happens outside of the controller. And it also helps us to keep controller functions small. However, the disadvantage of this option is it is less explicit. When we implement it in model classes, we do not always see why it happens because we don't always check back what is inside of the model class. When we implement it inside of the controller, it's more explicit. We usually update controllers when we make changes and we see those calls. We can also manage when we want to send those broadcasts by adding some conditions. But in cases when we implement those broadcasts inside of the controllers, we have to add those code changes inside of each controller function. And as we just said, it will not work if any of the records are updated or destroyed or created outside of the controllers. So taking this into account, you can decide what's the best place for you to use it. I personally prefer implementing broadcasts inside of the model classes. So let me go back to the editor and undo the changes that we did inside of the controller and restore my changes in the model class. And let me commit these changes and we will move on to the next topic. As we already said, currently when we click this link, we get browser's confirmation model. Let us start mixing turbo streams with turbo frames by implementing turbo frame based confirmation models.